Hello, this is Riley Smith with Make Good Creative Network. I am a comedy writer. I have taught and performed comedy in both the US and the UK. I have taught improv and sketch comedy. Today we are talking about sketch comedy. When we say sketch comedy as opposed to improv, sketch comedy is what they do on Saturday Night Live, where they have scripts and they read the things that were written in the scripts. At least that's what they're supposed to do. Improv is when you go up and you do it without a script, on the fly. You make it up as you go along. Both of these things are wonderful. But today we're going to be talking about sketch comedy. Today is how to come up with sketch ideas. So you want to write a sketch, you're pretty darn funny, you would like to write something such as would be done on Saturday Night Live, or like Whitest Kids You Know, or put on YouTube, something like that. But you're wondering, where do you get the ideas? Maybe you have a couple ideas, but not enough to regularly post to a YouTube channel or to do a whole show. Often sketch comedy is presented not just one or two sketches at a time, but a group of people will put on an entire show with 6 to 8 sketches. So you want to have more ideas than just one or two. Today I'm going to talk you through the easiest ways to generate more sketch ideas. Of course, ideas can come from anywhere, but if you want to make ideas come to you on command, here's how you do it. Here is how to come up with sketch comedy ideas when you want. So I'm going to talk you guys through a couple of different kinds of sketches and then how we generate ideas for that kind of sketch. The first is fish out of water. This is one of my favorites. It's also one of the easiest to generate ideas for. Fish out of water is when you take a character and put them in an environment that maybe they're ill-suited for. So an example of fish out of water. Let's take a vampire. What's a bad environment to put a vampire in? There are correct environments for vampires, such as coffins, but that's not funny. Vampire in a coffin, that's where they're supposed to go. So if we want to make a sketch, we take a vampire, put them where they're not supposed to be. A vampire in a cooking class that uses a lot of garlic. Maybe he's there with his girlfriend. A vampire working at a tanning salon. A vampire at a blood bank. I feel like somebody's probably done that idea. Probably multiple people have done that idea. That is the fish out of water way to generate ideas. You'll see this in comedy movies and sitcoms a lot. Alf is a fish out of water. It's a alien. I guess that's what he is. I have not seen it. The puppet scares me. But Alf is an alien and he's been put into a regular suburban family. All right, so you'll see this all over, but that's fish out of water. So take someone and put them in an environment where they don't belong. And that's the easiest way to generate it. Figure out the someone you want to write about. Is it a vampire? Is it an alien? Is it Barack Obama? Who do you want to write about? And then think, where does this person not belong? Then you can list a bunch of places they don't belong, and whichever ones strike your fancy, you can use to start writing some ideas, figuring out your sketch. I'll talk more in other videos about how to write the sketch, how to actually do an outline, the anatomy of a sketch, what to do once you have the idea and you want to get it down. But for this video, let's just generate as many ideas as we can. So the next type of sketch is called Alice in Wonderland. So Alice in Wonderland, this is a similar concept to fish out of water, except what's weird is the environment. You are mostly focused on a silly environment, and then your main person is the straight man. All right, so this is the person the audience is supposed to relate to. So an example of an Alice in Wonderland sketch. Weird environment. The Grapist, a classic. We know and love it, R.I.P. Trevor Moore. But The Grapist is an Alice in Wonderland sketch. The Wonderland is this environment where they're making this advertisement with the Grapist. It's obviously horrible to us in the audience, but the Wonderland, the environment of the sketch, does not get that it's horrible, except one dude who's your Alice. So something like this is more about an environment that you would like to make silly in some way, that you would like to make unique in some way, and then you put a straight person, we need a new term for this, but you put your unfunny audience identifier person into this environment. Another example of Alice in Wonderland style, again, sitcoms love this style. The Office is an example of Alice in Wonderland. There's so many opportunities to make fun of corporate America. Corporate America is a bizarro hellhole. So The Office is an example of an Alice in Wonderland. You generally identify with probably Pam and Jim. I'd say they're, at least in the early seasons, they were the most normal audience identifiable, and then the other characters are members of Wonderland who make this strange environment. So to generate ideas for Alice in Wonderland, think about environments and then what is off or unique about that environment. This can be based on real situations, such as the slight exaggeration of corporate America that is The Office, or it can be something totally wild like the Monty Python cheese shop that has no cheese. That is an environment that is pretty wacky. It's a great sketch. I love that sketch. But it's a cheese shop without cheese. That's odd. So you can either just pick an environment and exaggerate its characteristics, like, for example, exaggerating corporate America, or exaggerating working at a certain theme park that includes a mouse mascot. You could write a sketch about that. Taking an environment, figuring out what's silly about that real environment, or take an environment and then tweak it. Find one thing to make it unique, silly, weird, and then put your Alice into that environment. So a cheese shop with no cheese, or a cheese shop run by mice. I'm on a mice kick. But that is how you come up with Alice in Wonderland ideas. The next way to come up with sketch comedy ideas is to go off of character. So you saw in the previous types of sketches that we talked about, those are more of the juxtaposition between your main character and the environment. So that's why those two ideas are kind of similar. It's more about the differences between the environment and your main character. Character sketches are just about a character. What is quirky, what is interesting about this character? So for instance, Whitest Kids You Know Abraham Lincoln sketch has a very quirky Abraham Lincoln. He's a very unique rendition of Abraham Lincoln. That is a character sketch. The comedy of the sketch comes from this version of Abraham Lincoln. There are a couple of ways to generate ideas for characters. Characters, obviously a complicated thing. There are entire schools of comedy dedicated to helping you build out characters for sketches. But to generate some ideas, there are a few easy places to start. One of my favorites is to take a family member or a friend and turn them into a character. Somebody who you think is really funny. Maybe your mom has a hilarious way of telling it like it is. So you'll take a family member or a friend and basically take an aspect of their personality and exaggerate it into a character. So, like I said, maybe your mom is very straightforward and that's been funny. Maybe your grandmother insists on feeding people until they explode. That can be a sketch. Everyone at the dinner table just, I can't do anymore. No. And she's like, I made pies. So all these are things that you could then turn into characters. Another thing that I really like to use as character inspiration is myself. And I think everyone can do this. It's an important part of comedy to be able to make fun of yourself. So a lot of my characters come from aspects of my personality. My social anxiety has led to a lot of sketches. Pinpoint parts of your personality and use those to inspire characters for your sketches. The other thing that you can use is strangers or people who annoy you. Why not? Who cares? Just don't use their names or identifying information and they probably can't sue you. Using strangers or people you overhear is a really fun way to find inspiration that you maybe wouldn't get in your immediate circle of people. With any of these inspirations, do not try to capture the whole being in one sketch. Humans are complicated. Instead, just slice off one aspect of that person's personality. Everyone you know has multiple facets. They're different in different situations. That is not going to be helpful to you when you are writing a sketch. So for instance, social anxiety is just one part of me. It's not something that always plagues me, but it's something that I know a lot about, so I can use it to inspire a character who is just based around my social anxiety. I can use other aspects of myself to make other characters, such as my bibliophilia. I effing love books. This can be something else that can turn into a sketch character. But I don't try to shove all of these things into one character, because a sketch, as opposed to a movie or a TV show, is short. Usually it's shorter. Take your inspiration and turn them into one exaggerated characteristic, and then write off of that. The last way to generate sketch ideas is called the game. This again is a very important big concept. I'm not talking about the WWE wrestler. This is something that UCB teaches. That's a Upright Citizens Brigade, a really good improv school. If you take any of their classes, they will talk about the game a lot. I'm gonna really simplify it here, but this is how you can use it to help you generate ideas. So the game of a sketch is, to put it simply, what is funny about the sketch. It's usually the pattern that takes place in the sketch. So what is the joke, the situation, the pattern that makes this funny? This is opposed to a character sketch, which is about what is funny about this person, or Fish Out of Water or Alice in Wonderland, which is about what is funny about this environment compared to this person. The game is just, there is a funny situation happening. There's a funny pattern going on here. There can be overlap here. For instance, the Cheese Shop sketch by Monty Python. I used it as an example of Alice in Wonderland. It also is a game. The game being, the guy keeps asking for types of cheeses. They don't have any of the cheeses. How do you generate ideas for games? Games are patterns. Often it can be helpful to do improv with other people to come up with these kinds of patterns. But in this case, you're going to want to think about situation, and how do you make that situation repetitive? Or how do you make that how do you quirk that situation? For example, you can take anything in the world and then exaggerate or change one thing about it to generate a game. I'll show you what I mean. Let's take an IRS audit. What could go wrong is generally the question that I ask myself when trying to generate games. So what could go wrong with an IRS audit? The questions could get more and more personal and less about finance. So over the course of the sketch, the game is that the auditor starts by asking you questions about your receipts, and then ends by asking you questions about your divorce and your absentee dad. Another thing you can do, what can go wrong with an IRS audit? The auditor could hit on your spouse, and they keep using the audit as an excuse to flirt with your spouse. There you go, that's a game. So to generate ideas based off of game, think about a situation and then ask, how can I make something repeat in that situation? Or how can I make this go wrong? It's even better if you can do both. Make something repeat that is going wrong and make it worse and worse for the characters in your sketch. So those are the 4 ways to generate sketch ideas. If any of these are your favorites, comment below. If you have any questions, comment below. I'll definitely answer those and help you out if anything I've said here was not clear. I'm gonna do a lot more content on writing sketches. My dog is crying because he's super upset. I'm paying attention to you guys and not him. You can see his portrait here. He's adorable. If you need help generating ideas or just generally feeling creative, you're not sure how to get back into it, or you're not sure is sketch comedy the thing you want, if you feel stalled or blocked, we have a guide for you. It's called the 21 Creativity Killers. The link is in the description below. Go ahead and click on that link. That guide is free, and it'll walk you through the 21 things that might be stifling your creativity. So if you're still having a hard time generating ideas, go ahead, grab that guide, see which one of those creativity killers is holding you back, and it will also tell you how to beat it. All right? But most importantly, let's go make some comedy. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I always forget that. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Wherever the button. Press all the buttons. Press every button. Alright, bye-bye.
Doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-dop-dop. Doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-dop-dop. Make good.